So I will try to, I have three messages for you to take away. First, about the positioning of the Innovation Task Force in the regulatory science environment. The second point I will try to address is to give you some insights, also because it was in the questions, on tasks of the agency as well as topics, hot topics discussed in the agency. And the third is to provide you a little bit with a review of the benefits which you can find there, as well as an outlook for the next future, and with some conclusion. So regulatory science is a very nice word, it's very trendy at the moment, and consists of many areas of science indeed, which are necessary for a proper assessment of quality, safety, and efficacy of medicines. So it's about biomedical sciences, it's about decision science, it's about risk assessment, as well as communication sciences. So the regulatory science is very, very complex field, and therefore it's very necessary that as science progresses, the fundamental life science progresses, all the other sciences align, or even better, get prepared in advance for alignment. So the contribution is towards medicines development and standards development, of course, for the benefit of public health. So this is a paper which has been recently published in April in Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics, and actually we try to summarize in this slide what has driven recently an emphasis on innovation across the Union. Everyone is aware that now innovation office have been formalized in a number of member states. In a number of member states, more are being established. Certainly, there is a changed landscape of pharmaceutical, I would say in Europe, but also in the world. And how the regulators can approach these many changes and challenges is to move away from the very old-fashioned, I would say, gatekeeper position, whereby you, the companies, were to produce the data and we, the regulators, were to say yes or no, but rather create an environment which is favorable to innovation. So, in fact, this is what this slide represents, and you see already here that there is clearly indication that the SME office supports to the small and medium enterprises considered one of the key functions, as well as the procedure which was mentioned by my colleague Jane before, stimulate production of tools, methodologies for developing drugs, and innovation task forces to be there to help in this endeavor. The other aspect, which has been very eloquently presented by Jane, is creation of a stakeholders interaction. And this is applicable all across the range of sciences which constitute regulatory science. And here in the blue square, you have some need which we have to work on in order to be able to put all these efforts into proper fruition. I will not dwell on this, you can read it in the article, it's pretty extensive. So, one question which is very, very often put forward is what is the position of Innovation Task Force vis-a-vis of other activities like biomarker qualification, scientific advice, etc. So you got quite an extensive presentation and very clear presentation from Jane. The Innovation Task Force is a little bit different. It's not there to give you scientific advice or to tell you whether your method can be qualified or your biomarker can be qualified, but as a different focus. Is really a platform where you have a preparatory dialogue and orientation on innovative methods and medicines. And this preparatory dialogue and orientation is an investment from your side, but also from our side. This is the reason why the Innovation Task Force activities are all free of charge, because we need to be together and work together to be prepared in order for your product to come to the usefulness for patients. So it was established actually in 2001, the Innovation Task Force. And the initial really objective was just to provide horizon scanning and get the agency with a network around in Europe to be prepared for innovation coming through. And we have been doing this since, trying to influence activities within the network so that all the member states, all the experts in the network could be duly and timely trained and prepared. So, of course, there was a lot of things coming in 1998, and there was a lot of uncertainties around, so it was very important to really master also some aspects of communication, which at the time were really poor. So we established briefing meetings with innovation, with innovators. Innovators can be from academia, can be from industry, can be from all sorts of sponsors. We established the so-called classification review even before the ITMP legislation was in place. We've been looking since at borderline and combination products. We looked at emerging therapies, methods, and technologies like genomic biomarkers, epigenetics, non-clinical models, nanomedicine, synthetic biology, statistical models. And you see this here, it seems very obvious. It's very much high in the agenda of everyone. But we started really looking at that things since 2001. So the ITF is not one person, is not one group, it's a multidisciplinary network. You see in pink the most, I would say, involved actors, and in yellow where the resources come from in terms of really regular support to the network. And as the activities are really of major importance for preparedness, you will see, even though free of charge, the major investment done, but all the one involved. We are speaking about between 400 and 500 people a year to discuss 20 cases, between 20 and 30 cases. So that's the really innovative one, the really challenging one we want to see. And here you have a clear images why this should be very, very selective platform. In this slide, we try to show which are the areas in which we've been working and the relative impact of the various areas. Of course, the numbers are very, very small, but again, what is important is the signal you can derive from this and what we have to put our attention on. So what are the briefing meetings? I'm sorry this slide is not really bright, but these are the topics we have discussed recently, so the emerging topics. One most of you will be aware is about stem cell-based ATMPs, all the discussion about heterologous versus homologous use, when a stem cell can be intended as a heterologous use, etc., and also the use of sequential products in terms of advanced therapies. Biomarkers and biomarker sets, in particular for genomics one, how you identify them, how you look at the platforms which have identified them, what are the limitations of your biomarkers, and what is the further development you have to think of and the potential role, and what is the relationship between the biomarker platform and the companion diagnostic eventually you want to put forward. Now, for these areas, particularly for these two areas, there is a lot of work which we can do in briefing meetings, especially to prepare for a more formal and more robust scientific conclusions, which will be taken in the framework of scientific advice. I think I will never stress enough that in view of the complexity of these topics, we are very happy to have briefing meetings and will be offered only once to a company and a product. We are not going to do repeated meetings on the same topic several times because we identify the issues you have to really work a lot before going to scientific advice to get the most out of scientific advice. We look, of course, at new scientific methods and strategies. We are very interested in strategies, and I want to mention here the metabiomics and bacterial films, we've seen a couple of cases, as well as phages cocktails. 5 minutes, okay. And then questions, my products can be considered medicinal products. Can I access the benefit of the centralized process? Borderline, combined. Again, this is just to see what are the key issues you have to think and consider in order to sort out the problem and make up your mind. So you will go out of these meetings with more questions than answers, but those questions will be framed better so you can get a better advice later on. The benefits is that you start the dialogue with the agency and you can facilitate, and we facilitate the exchange on innovative strategies and we get an update on progress, okay? I'm afraid this is not the latest version of my presentation, but it's fine. We identify issues which are of particular interest to regulators because when you come to us, you come with your agenda and you go away with your agenda discussed, but also with all the questions we anticipate you will get from the committees and from the working parties, because of course there will be participation from all of those parties. Now, as you can see, small and medium enterprises have quite a significant contribution in our dialogue, and we see that certainly they outnumber the top 20, and they are really working together with academia. Now, I want to spend just 1 minute on ATMP classifications. The purpose of the ATMP classification is known, and this has been established for giving support to ATMPs and SMEs. And also to identify very early marketing authorization application requirements, and also areas which are borderline. I want to show you the classification rate and the actually major role played in ITMPs by the SMEs. And also want to highlight the emerging issues. I was focusing on 2012. And as you can see, there is certainly a big raise in questions and definitions around the borderline between cell-based and engineered tissues. But we had a few cases this year where actually companies were dealing with something which was not at all RTMPs. So this is an important message, I think, to take away. Now, for the future, is an investment. Innovation task force, and innovation is an investment for societies, is an investment for companies, but is also an innovation, an investment for the network. And we started in 2011 working together as regulators to create a network among ourselves so we could exchange the tip tops of our experience in the member states. We started small, we had 2 virtual meetings so far, and as you can see from the topic included, we, the regulators, also need to invest and exchange. So the conclusions: be part of this innovation ring, shape it. Only participating you can shape it. The Innovation Task Force Network is really for preparedness in times of transforming science, and not only life science, it's communication science, it's regulator science. And with this, I want to acknowledge the contribution of my colleague Falk Eyman, who's up there in the room, Professor Hans-Georg Heikler, and Florence, who helped me with the presentation. Thank you.